Well, welcome to this afternoon edition of the Paul Harrell program. Today on the show, of course, we're going to cover the tragedy out of Minnesota. We have another what I would call trans terrorist shooter that has gone after Christians at a Christian school. We're going to talk about that and much, much more. I want to encourage everybody to continue praying for the wounded, pray for the doctors, pray for their healing, and just pray for somehow that through supernatural intervention that we can make sense out of all of this. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Spencer. Rob, good to see you again, sir, under the circumstances.
Sure, Paul, it's great to be on the show. Obviously, we've got a lot of tragic news. And any time, you and I are both parents, and you think about our children that are in church or in school. I know your wife homeschools your daughter, but at the same time, there are opportunities where our children are vulnerable. And so when we see this type of thing, we certainly want to pass blame, but we also want to pray. We also want to pray for them. And there are people who are coming out who are mocking our prayer, and they're saying, you know what? These kids were praying while they were killed. Well, there were a lot of Christians who were martyrs, and this earth that we are revolving around is not that. This is not our permanent home, and so we're not promised a painless life here on this earth. That doesn't give us comfort today as a parent. When you think about an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old losing their life today, I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old. You have an 8-year-old, right? And so it just really hits home as a parent.
Absolutely.
And then what we have here is yet another instance of trans violence. And this is, not so much of an indictment against the trans community, but what we have is an individual who was obviously suffering from a lot of mental problems and decided, instead of just taking his own life or lashing out against the people who have oppressed him, he shoots some innocent children.
Yeah, and even what he said was, what he wrote on the magazines, for the kids and all this stuff. And what we're really going to get down to is a spiritual battle here, because this is not just about mental illness. This guy's got drawings of him talking with demons. This is obviously a spiritual battle as well.
Where were the people in his life? And I hope that we can talk about that.
We are going to. They were signing off on his name change. And again, we've got to have a serious talk.
We have a ton of stuff to talk about over the course of this hour. So everybody stick with us. This is going to be a great hour.
But before we get to that, I want to tell you about red light therapy, and specifically the incredible technology, clinical strength red light panels that you can get in your home. I've talked about it for a long time. The folks at Red Vive, and you can go to redvivehealth.org/Paul to find out more. I fundamentally believe in this technology because I use it, and I don't think that the medical industrial complex, Big Pharma, they really want you to know about this. And so to talk more about this now and the benefits of red light therapy, I decided to contact a red light therapy customer, a Red Vive customer. His name is Hugh Collins. He joins us now on the program. Hugh, welcome to the Paul Harrell program, sir. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Paul. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So the reason I wanted to have you on the program is because I know that you are a user of red light therapy and you know about the benefits, and I thought people could, figure out from another source, not just me, about this incredible technology. When did you first hear about red light therapy, sir?
So that's an interesting question. Actually, through my wife. My wife had a medical procedure, I guess, towards the beginning of this year. And as a part of her ongoing therapy to help get past that procedure, her physician prescribed, I believe it was about 10 or 15 sessions of red light therapy using the Red Vive panel. And she was so impressed with it, she enjoyed it so much that we actually made the investment in a Red Vive clinical panel, the kind that allows you to lay down underneath it on a bed or some other type of thing that you can lay on. And so personally, I've been using it since, I guess, about mid-spring. and have seen some really good results.
Well, so what kind of results have you seen?
So actually, the kind of results that I can talk about really kind of break down along two kind of main axes. One is myself personally, which I think is the most compelling conversation, the most compelling information for this conversation. But also, my wife has seen some amazing benefits beyond just her post-surgical experiences with it, where she's been using it to get some of the collagen benefits. I don't want to overstate the case and say rejuvenating or whatever, but she has been on Zoom calls where folks have said, "Gee, have you been doing this? Have you been doing that? You don't have fine lines. You don't have this. You don't have that." So I think that's more of an anecdotal experience that I can share with you. But personally, as you can probably see from some of the things behind me here, I'm an avid cyclist, and like so many cyclists, I keep track of my performance, my average speed, my heart rate. I have a power meter, all of that sort of thing. And that's really where I can say, for myself, I've really seen a difference in those metrics since, like I said, since mid-spring of this year. Most importantly, and perhaps most impressively, is that I ride, I have a 40-mile ride that I use as kind of my benchmark. And I would say that, I was averaging, on a good day, I could average about 17 miles an hour. Since using the Red Vive, and by the way, I use it about half an hour total, 15 minutes per side. Sounds like I'm cooking chicken. But, and as a result of that, 18 miles an hour, 18 and a half miles an hour is more what my expectations have come to be. And that might not sound like a lot, but you have to keep in mind that it took me 10 years to get from 15 miles an hour to 16 and a half, right? Now, in a relatively short period of time, I've seen the improvement that I just described. And my weight is roughly the same. My nutrition is roughly the same. Everything else is pretty much as is. The main variable has been the use of the Red Vive product. And I got to say, also, I think of equal consideration is the fact that it has done an incredible job on helping with my recovery. As you can tell by the color of my beard, I'm not a young person anymore. And, that level of, 40 miles an hour 40 miles, we do some significant climbing. There's a significant level of exertion. Sometimes you don't feel like doing much the rest of the day. But honestly, leveraging Red Vive, using that as part of my recovery therapy, it's made a huge difference in terms of what I'm able to do, day in and day out, post ride as part of my recovery. So it's really made a positive impact, and it's something that I absolutely plan on combining as part of my training regimen.
Did it sound like snake oil when you first heard of the technology? Photo biomodulation or biophoto modulation. The thing is, it seems like to be a catch-all, but when you actually go do the research and look at it, obviously you experience the results like I have, like you have. We know it works. But for those who are skeptical and you just think this sounds too good to be true, you go to redvivehealth.org/Paul, where you can get a discount. But there's also a lot of research on that website, a lot of papers where you can figure out, hey, this is actually real technology. It's actually kind of biohacking your own body and taking advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely sounded like, first and foremost, you're right. It sounded like snake oil, right? And it also absolutely sounded too good to be true, that all you have to do is lay under a light and good things happen. That sounds kind of a bit much, right? But as you mentioned, there is a good bit of research available, and I'm always a big fan of mitochondria hacking. The first time I learned about mitochondria, and the tagline that has stuck with me ever since is it's the powerhouse of the cell. And then as you start to read more about anti-aging regimens and some of those sorts of things, it becomes clear that mitochondria really are the key to getting the most out of what you can, maintaining your peak health for as long as possible. In my case, achieving the greatest results that I can through my endurance endeavors and things like that. So yeah, it's really been a difference maker, and like I say, it's something that I'm looking forward to using for quite some time.
Well, I'm really glad to hear you say that. I want to remind everybody you can go to redvivehealth.org/Paul to do the research, but when you go there, you get a 15% discount. You can also call 844-REDVIVE, and if you mention my name, Paul, you get the discount. Now, they also have a deal for veterans, so if you are a veteran, or if you are a veteran, or if you have a veteran, rather, in your immediate household, you can get another 5% off by calling the number 844-REDVIVE. That's 844-REDVIVE. So I take it, Hugh Collins, you're going to be using this technology for a while, or the rest of your
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything that I've experienced with it has been positive. If I haven't experienced any downsides at all, nothing negative. It's been nothing but upside for me. So absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, it's really great to meet you, and I appreciate you coming on the program, and I'd love to do it again soon. But I just wanted to share these testimonials with people about this technology. It's not just my testimony, but it's people like you. And first of all, it's great to meet you, sir, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate a chance to share this.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. God bless. Be safe. All right. Well,
Thanks.
There we go. Yes, sir. Once again, redvivehealth.org/Paul. And if you're a veteran or have a veteran intermediate household, you can get this technology for a discount, for 20% off instead of the 15% off. So we would highly encourage you to do that. Rob, you've tried Red Light before.
I have, yes. So I'm a member of I get the it's a place called Glow Tanning, and I go in there for some spray tans every once in a while. I have a very
You can't tell it.
Yes. Well, I have a very yes, you can. You can clearly see that I get spray tans.
I look like a ghost. We keep trying to light myself.
Yeah.
Try to
We've been trying to fix your
equalize
lighting.
our lighting, and we just can't.
We're doing the studio thing. We're trying to fix your lighting, and we can't do it.
We can't do it.
But I do that because I have a very pale natural complexion, and I look red all the time, like I'm angry. And I do get angry certainly on days like today, but at the same time, so I do that. But as part of Glow Tanning, which is phenomenal, if you've got a Glow tanning place near you, like they have red light therapy and they have all of that stuff. But if you don't, then Red Vive is going to be and even if you do have Glow, like Red Vive is going to be a good option for you because it's in home. It's at your own time.
Right.
You can jump up in the morning and do all of this stuff and do it before you go to bed. But anyway, so I'm a big fan of that. If we're transitioning into the news of the day, that's a tough transition.
Yeah, it's a tough transition. And
Right.
Earlier today, obviously, we got the news that there was a terrible shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was in the middle of a mass, a joint school mass. Of course, school has just started, only for a couple of weeks, depending on where you are. And it was really every parent's worst nightmare. 17 people wounded, 2 people dead. I think 14 of the 17 that were wounded and were rushed to the hospital are kids. Yeah. We do have let's actually just start there because we do have an update on the medical prognosis of some of these children. And so let's start there this afternoon. Here is the police chief.
The question from Matt was, how are the injured students doing? I believe all of them have their parents with them now. And they are all expected to survive. All of the remaining victims are expected to survive.
Praise
there
the
is
Lord.
a range of injuries, however. The question...
Okay, so that is a positive. Praise the Lord. All remaining victims are expected to survive.
You got to find these little hints of light in the darkness. And, of course, my thoughts are with, you've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old who...
I know. I'm pretty sure I saw earlier when I was doing Millstone earlier. All of this was happening live, and I'm pretty sure I saw. Pretty sure I saw a mother get the news like firsthand. And so, but I've just been filled with all kinds of emotions. And obviously, I preface all of this with God is in control of everything, and so this is not a time to black pill by any stretch of the imagination. But we do need to analyze what's going on. And so these are my feelings. I tweeted this after I got done broadcasting earlier today. Trans ideology was forced on the public by almost every institution.
Yeah.
BlackRock, Vanguard, they ensured corporate saturation. Hollywood, the music industry, all professional sports parroted the exact same message. Trans people represent the modern-day civil rights movement. All the while, the media clapped like seals. Even Fox News tried to convince boomers they should consider Caitlyn Bruce Jenner's opinion as valid while she delivers the news. After all, the GOP needs to make room in the tent for chopping off body parts and calling it gender-affirming health care. And as a result, children are dead today and many wounded. The time for action is now. Doctors who participate in affirming mental illness must be prosecuted, and that's what I want President Trump to do. I want him to call a national emergency on this. This is not a blue state, red state thing. I don't care what the blue states say. You're not a united country if you've got blue states and blue cities that believe this is health care when it clearly isn't health care. It's delusional. It's time to call a spade a spade. Men can't become women. Women can't become men. And in regards to this particular trans shooter, anybody, any therapist, any doctor, even his parents that have affirmed this delusion, it's time we actually start calling out the people that are doing this.
Well, what we saw there with the mass shooting in Michigan, it was the first parents who were charged because they actually bought the rifle, the weapon for the perpetrator, and they were charged, and they're both in jail, prison for, unless they're out. I don't know that, but I was, as far as I know, that they're in jail right now. And at what point is that going to go a little further down the line and just say, every person who is complicit in affirming mental illness, I've said it before and I've said it again. If you think that a biological man, someone with a penis who is 22 years old, can change his name, say that his name is now Robin. I actually don't know what his given name is because Robin is a gender neutral name.
Robert.
Okay, so his name is Robert, same as mine, and he felt like he was a woman, right? And all of the people who bought into that lie should have some accountability into this, because for some unknown stupid ass reason, we embrace gender dysphoria and celebrate it. It's the only mental illness that I'm aware of that we celebrate and embrace. Every other mental illness we try to treat and try to, yay, you're depressed. You're clinically depressed. Oh my gosh, let's have a parade for you. Yay, you have anorexia. We're going to embrace you. And I've said it, like, we don't give gastric bypass to people who are suffering from anorexia.
Yeah, that's a great
We don't do that.
point. Yeah.
We don't do that. But yet for some reason, if you have a penis and you think you're a woman, we're going to embrace it. It's a mental illness. It is people who are searching for help. And instead of giving them that help, we embrace it. We celebrate it. And this, unfortunately, as you can see on your screen, happens.
It does, and it's a pattern. And you're going to hear the left say, "Let's not talk about the trans community. Let's not talk about all of this," because they're going to say, just like Trey Gowdy saying, "Oh, this is a white person. We all knew it was going to be a white male that did this, and we got to take your guns away." And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he clearly was referencing gun control. But no, this is the pattern that they don't want us to recognize. Colorado Springs shooter, non-binary. Denver shooter, trans. Aberdeen shooter, trans. I had to look that one up because I was skeptical. Nashville shooter, we all know, Audrey Hale, trans, hopped up on testosterone. Philadelphia shooter identified as trans. Either way, like, you've got genetic plans, you've got your male or your female, and you're going to give your body hormones that you're not designed to take. Or we haven't even talked about SSRIs, antipsychotic medication, and how many shooters that have done stuff like this that end up being in some way on medication. But this is a pattern. We're not surprised by it. The American people in 2024 rejected trans insanity. It's one of the things we rejected. So I'm not surprised by this. When I heard about the shooting, it was in Minneapolis, I thought of two profiles. I thought this is either a Muslim, because it was a Catholic church, or this is a trans person. That's immediately where my mind went.
Immediately.
And
you were correct.
And I was correct on
you
one
had
of
a
those.
50-50 shot.
Right. And the question was, was it going to be a biological man or a biological female? In this case, it was a biological man.
So someone would say, okay, well, what about Las Vegas? What about Columbine? What about what's the one in Connecticut?
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook. Thank you. These horrible, horrible tragedies, and they just say, well, what about those? Those people weren't trans.
Well, we don't know any. We still don't know anything about Las Vegas. By the way, I'm not. That guy wasn't trans, but that's a whole nother conspiracy theory rabbit hole. We've never been told the truth. Oh, but I will say this: we know more about this trans shooter in 13 minutes than we still know about Thomas Crooks, whose body was cremated after the Butler shooting. By the way, anyway, I digress.
Right, exactly.
I digress.
And so what we're talking about here is we're seeing a trans ideology, which is obviously a mental condition. Even the
bare
most
minimum.
They just say, oh, well, gender is a social construct, right? They keep saying that, right? But gender dysphoria is a real medical condition. Like growing up in the 80s and 90s, Paul, we called them cross-dressers, right? But they weren't called transgender back then. They were called transsexuals.
Yes.
Okay. And these transsexuals who would go try to get sex reassignment surgery at look at Silence of the Lamb, right? Buffalo Bill was a trans person.
And also a serial killer, by the way.
Amazing how that was called back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, so you've got all of these individuals here who have some sort of mental illness, whether they're trans or whether they're just an evil person who wants to cause as much chaos as they can before they end their lives. The Columbine shooters, which really put all these school shootings on the map, although you and I suffered through a local shooting a year before Columbine. But regardless, what you had was a bullied these individuals who were bullied or being bullied, and they were trying to get retribution, okay? There are a lot of people who are bullied every day, and so something has to be broken for you to walk up to a classmate and shoot them like they did in Columbine. Something has to be broken inside of you for you to have a penis and think that you are a woman, okay? Those two things are not opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay, they are both mental illnesses. Okay, why are we embracing one, and yet we've got all kinds of anti-bullying campaigns out here, rightfully so. All of that, we are trying to say, like, you don't know what somebody's going through, so you cannot bully them like that. Okay, but yet we try to call this out and we try to prevent this. But over here, we have this other mental illness that we're fully embracing and celebrating. Those two things don't go together.
Right.
We've got to put them in the same pool and say the trans people are suffering from a mental illness just the same as a bullied person who would either kill themselves or kill others. Right. They are suffering from a mental illness.
Yeah,
both of those things need to be.
And you raise an interesting point about violence in general. Statistically, because we know, they'll tell us that, trans people pre-op are suicidal. Of course, we also know trans people post-op are suicidal as well because their problems, newsflash, they don't go away. But the statistics show that if you are prone to, like, suicide is an act of violence against yourself. Right?
That's
and so statistically, if you're willing to do that, you're also more likely to commit violence against other people. Here is a video of a boy who has an incredible disposition considering he just
went through a horrific tragedy.
Yeah, and his buddy threw him to the ground and was shot, covered him. Well, here, just listen.
What happened with him? Is he okay?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be okay. And then my friend, he was like laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
And you have a nick on your neck?
Yeah, that was, I don't even know what it's from. Kind of looks like debris or something.
But that came from during this?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? You seem pretty put together here, but it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I'm just like confused.
The mom of the shooter used to work at the Catholic school there.
Yeah.
That's other news. And then we have this. We have this pathetic mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, who already went out as soon as this happened and criticized people who were praying for the victims, praying over the situation, and said, "Well, the kids were praying." And so we need more than that. Here he is warning all of us, now that we know the shooter's trans. And by the way, they weren't able to cover it up. The YouTube channel was scrubbed, but it wasn't scrubbed before people were able to get the information. And then thanks to Elon Musk's X, which back in the older days, all these videos would have been censored. All of it.
Right.
But immediately, the manifesto, the video, all of it went viral immediately. Yeah. But here's the mayor trying to tell us all this is not a trans issue.
All of us. And I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
So recognizing stereotypes is a place of hate. That's what he's saying here.
Recognizing that, and I see Klobuchar back there, and I see stupid. Is that Tim Walz right behind him?
Probably is.
Yeah.
By the way, Tim Walz, the guy that signed the law making Minnesota a trans sanctuary state. Okay? This is very much a reap what you sow situation.
Right, meaning you can go there, you can get trans care, like in terms of, they call it, what do they call it, gender-affirming care. You can get puberty blockers, you can get surgeries, all of this stuff.
I want to amend what I said. It's not really a reap what you sow situation because these people paid no consequences.
Right.
The people that paid the consequences are these innocent kids.
Yeah, they didn't sow
parents.
anything. They didn't sow anything. Their parents were doing the right thing. Their parents were taking them to a private school, right? This Catholic school. I don't know if it's private or public, but I would assume with it being Catholic, it would be a private school. And so they take them to this private school, and they just started back to school, and all of a sudden these kids, they're coming in there, and they're attending Mass, and they're doing the right things. So as those, you and I both of faith, we're struggling today. We struggle because, Lord, you know, we see it. We see it all the time when we see these tragedies. We say, Lord, why? Why did you allow this to happen? Why did you know, we all have free will. I could pull out a gun and shoot you right now. I have the free will to do that, okay? Whether God would intervene and jam my gun or whatever, all of those things. Like we struggle with that because we say, Lord, you could have intervened. You know, you could have. But at the same time, from our faith is we're trying to understand what God's motivations are. You're talking about a heavenly being versus our simple brains that were created by Him. So I look at it and say, well, then what can we do?
That's exactly right.
Right. What can we do? We can pray, and we can pray for understanding. We can pray for peace. We can pray for the Lord to offer that to these families.
Yeah, we can pray in the precatory psalms, which are, God, how long will you look on?
Yeah.
How basically, those are all in Scripture. We
can
pray those too.
Talk to an older person and listen to them say, every time this happens, Lord, please come.
Yeah, exactly.
Just come.
Yes, absolutely.
We're ready. Like if for all of this loyal followers, Lord, just come.
Well, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
And I think about the 8-year-old and the 10-year-old waking up this morning, and I think about the struggle that we go through with our kids every morning, like brush your teeth, get your backpack, do all of these things, like get in the vehicle. Mom's leaving at 7. Like, we got to go. You got to go. It's 7:02. No, you don't have time to cook those Lego waffles, or Eggo waffles.
Yeah.
I said Legos.
Lego my Eggo.
Yeah, Lego my Eggo. You don't have time to cook those Eggo waffles. Go get in the vehicle. Quit giving your mom lip. Like, these are conversations that I have every morning. But those kids, my kids, and these 8 and 10-year-olds woke up this morning not having any clue whether that could be their last day or not.
Yeah.
Like, having no clue of that. And so this 8-year-old and this 10-year-old brushed their teeth, put their clothes on,
For the last time.
got in the car, and they went, and they don't have a chance, because this person with a mental illness got a hold
Yep.
of a weapon. And somebody could say, well, you could have controlled that because gun control doesn't do this. Minneapolis, Minnesota. I mean, we were talking about there's tons of gun control in these areas.
Yeah.
And there are tons of trans people who don't murder. I get that. There are tons of there's millions and millions of gun owners who don't murder other people, right? There are millions of knife owners who don't murder people, and that's the kind of stuff that you see in European countries. When somebody will do a knife attack and a mass killing, they'll go around and they'll stab 8 to 12 people or whatever, and somebody can say, well, you can do more damage with a gun. Well, you can do a lot of damage with a knife, especially if you're a 25-year-old able-bodied assailant and you're doing all of these things. We have to sit here and say, what do we know? Do we know that there are more guns in the United States than there are people? Yes. There are more weapons in this United States than there are people. But you also know that trans people thinking that they're the opposite gender is a mental illness. And are we doing anything to address that? Because you're talking about the Second Amendment, right? We want to take away my ability to own a gun, your ability to own a gun. We want to take that away, even though we've committed no crimes. This person committed a crime, and we embraced their mental illness.
Yeah,
they're in a state that embraced their mental illness.
There's also a spiritual component here, I believe. When you are going to buy into this ideology, again, the same ideology that was pumped out by every corporation for the last 10 years, all the major league sporting organizations, virtually all of Hollywood, all of the music industry, the government, blue states, stuff like that. So when you embrace this thing and the media claps like seals, getting everybody to, LGBT or the trans or the next civil rights era movement of our time, I think fundamentally what you're doing there is you're embracing an ideology that hates who you are, who God created you to be at the cellular level.
You hate yourself.
I mean, so I've been I'm a sinner. I've gone through moments in my life where I am more rebellious towards God and what He would want for my life. I've been through times when I'm not that way, and it's part of sanctification as a Christian and that sort of thing. But when we're talking about people who are not Christians and you're embracing a form of paganism that it's like self-worship to the max. Like I'm going to define my own reality down to how I was created. I reject how I was created. I believe,
even though you had no control over it.
You have no control over it, but I believe that that's a denial of God. That's there are different levels of depravity, right?
Sure.
There is a slippery slope. All sin will separate you from God, but there are different levels. And I think this opens yourself up. I think it opens one up to demonic oppression. And I think that, I don't think I'm the only one to ever have this thought. I think this is a basic thought. And in this case, people are looking at his manifesto, and they're noticing demonic images. Here is an image, and I believe he could write in Russian at some point. So he wrote,
that's interesting.
When will this end? Help me, I don't want to. Help, kill yourself. And this is an image of somebody with...
Hold up. Literally just read what he said again.
Who? ? When will this end? ? Help me. I don't want to. Help. Kill yourself. What a conversation back and forth.
That one that gets me in the middle is I don't want to.
And it it appears the drawing is this demon is at some sort of booth, or there's a sink, or I guess that's a bathroom sink, and so he's looking at himself in the mirror. That's what that is.
Yeah.
He is looking at himself in the mirror with a gun, and what he sees staring back at him, what he's talking with, is some sort of pig demon of some kind. So the idea that there isn't demonic oppression here, I think the evidence suggests that there is, and this goes hand in glove with what we as a society are parroting. When you are trying to convince young people that they're born in the wrong body, that they should hate who they are at the cellular level, when you're selling them a lie that they can change who they are, which is a lie, by the way.
Right.
You can't actually become the opposite sex. This is why I want President Trump. I want President Trump to call a press conference. I want I let RFK Jr. be there too. I want some sort of We've got to do more than simply defund these hospitals that are doing this. It is now time for national action to go after the doctors, to go after the therapists. We need to prosecute these people if they are affirming delusions and actually harming their patients, because that's what this is.
Sure.
You know, you're not supposed to do harm. Do no harm. That's the Hippocratic Oath. That's what we must do.
I fully embrace it, Paul. If there are perp walks of doctors who give, if you're a doctor, a physician, and you give puberty blockers to a 10-year-old boy because he's about to go through puberty, he doesn't want to go through puberty as a boy. He's convinced that he's a girl and he doesn't want to go through that. If you're a doctor who prescribes those, you should be in jail.
Amen.
You should have your medical license revoked and you should be in jail. I don't give a damn. Cancel me. Cancel me. You are giving puberty blockers to kids. You wouldn't give them a tattoo. If your 10-year-old came to you and said, I would like a tattoo across my face, I would like that. No, I can't do that for you. Why? Because that is a permanent life decision.
The tattoo
what the
artist,
hell do you think puberty blockers is?
The tattuu artist would lose their license
100%
if they did that.
There's
and
a
yet
reason.
A doctor doesn't.
And a doctor will. How many? We found out, and this was up in. It was in Boston, I believe. There was a hospital that was absolutely cutting off the breast of 14-year-old girls. 14-year-old girls, and I'm like, my 11-year-old who has hormones and all of this stuff, she is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde right now. Because one moment she is bouncing off the wall, she is happy as the world, and the next minute you look at her wrong and she is like end of the world, and I'm having to talk her down off the ledge, right? Because she's going through puberty, she has all of these hormones going through her body, she's mad at the world. And how that could easily translate into, I feel like I'm a boy, or if it's a boy feeling like they're a girl, because there is some sort of positivity in that embracing of, hey, I'm going to be celebrated. I'm going to be celebrated as trans. And the adults, it's more than you should be ashamed of yourself. It's more than that. You can go straight to hell. If you are a parent and you are pumping your children full of puberty blockers and chemically castrating them, go to hell. I know that's not religious of me. That is not Christian-like, and I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray about it and probably feel bad about it. But damn it, you've got something broken in your mind.
Well,
we are on the right side of history with this, Paul. We are on the right side of history with this. You can never convince me. You can never convince me that a 10-year-old, even so much as people that are letting 3-year-olds say, I feel like I am the other gender. You can go to hell. You need mental help yourself.
I completely agree. And that is why, what we're talking about here is child abuse.
It's 100% child abuse.
And
I would feel
right,
the exact same about someone who is beating a child.
No, right now. Like the laws that we have on the books right now, that is child abuse. And even the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, did an Attorney General opinion on it years ago, because he was asked, can you give us an opinion, is this child abuse? And he wrote back, and he went all the way back to I don't know how many countries, I don't know how many nations Texas has been. You know, the land of Texas.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But he went back even that far, saying even under that code, what this would be considered child abuse. And I know maybe that's why we need sheriffs. We need actual law enforcement people to just step up and enforce the laws that we have on the books.
Yeah.
So and they would be absolute heroes. But okay, for sake of argument, let's say we want to clarify. Let's say we want to go down to a state legislature and formally, in Arkansas, formally open up the child abuse statutes, and we're going to make this child abuse. And what that means is, whether you go to a blue state and do this to your child, you're not coming back to Arkansas without you now can be charged with child abuse, and there can be some intervention. And I know that's a whole state intervention with CPS. I know CPS tends to attract unsavory people. I know there's a lot of abuse stories.
Sure.
There can be a lot of abuse stories. I get that, maybe a whole other bag of worms, but come on, this is absolute insanity. You don't have a right to abuse your children, and that's what this is. And to the point about where the parents should go, these parents are. It really kind of goes to show you how depraved we can be as human beings, like how far we can go. That's why I keep bringing up the media and the propaganda. Like, if you are, and I'll just say this, like if you're not a Christian and you don't have the discernment of the Holy Spirit, it's very easy for you to get swept up in the propaganda of the age, the spirit of the age. And a lot of these parents, that's what's going on. Not necessarily all of them, but a lot of them are totally deceived. That's no excuse. The deception is no excuse. They're still responsible for what they're doing. But it just goes, the last 10 years, even liberal Bill Maher has remarked, how come most of the trans people are from blue cities where there are these moms that get together with sipping their box wine or whatever, and they want to talk about how stunning and brave their daughter is who wants to become a man, and how they're supporting her, and how it's become a social fad of selfishness in the parent to want to have a child that has this mental illness. There's so many and it's a spiritual battle. That's what I keep getting to. That has a real world blood consequence. BlackRock and Vanguard. When every June we were inundated, and I know there's gays out there that are upset that they were lumped in with the T's. But June was very much about the T's, right? That's what this is. The T's are the most vocal of the LGBs at this point. 100%. And Vanguard and BlackRock, they own these corporations, and Target and you name it. We're all getting the same message, the same propaganda, and people that don't have their heads screwed on straight, that don't have a grounding. And I'll relate it to you like this: there are people mentally in torment right now because Donald Trump was elected a second time. But when Biden was elected under very obvious, I believe, fraudulent circumstances. My world wasn't turned upside down, because I have a faith that's grounded in something deeper, in something more. Right? I was upset, probably said some things I shouldn't have, but at the end of the day, I still went to work. At the end of the day, I still loved my family, went to church, because that's the stuff that's really important to me, not who's president of the United States. Right? You got to go to living, but when your whole reality is built on on not something eternal, but something earthly, the governments of men. Well, when that government changes and gets somebody's in control of it that you don't like, your whole world crashes down. That's the same. I don't know. I don't know if you can see the points I'm trying to make. No, I'm upset.
You're talking about when someone is a temple unto themselves.
Yes.
Right. They are a temple unto themselves rather than your body is a temple of God. Right. And so if you're a temple unto yourself, and then there are outside forces such as whoever the president of the United States is, whoever controls the Senate, whoever controls the House, that dictates legislation that might come after you, right? Come after you. Then what that is going to control how you feel, how you react, how you interact with other people around you. You certainly just try to villainize. Like, I don't understand why someone can support a party who is embracing this trans ideology. But I also have people very good friends of mine who are on the left who don't embrace this trans ideology, but they embrace more the other things that are more aligned with the left than they are with the right. I can respect that. That's what politics used to be.
Right.
What it is now is we've got this far right lunatic base over here. We've got this far left lunatic base, and they're the ones that are being vocal. I would argue that far left is being 20, 30, 50 times more vocal than that far right ever thought about being. Because the far right are the KKK, the cross-burning people, the we need to segregate everybody back out, all of this stuff. Like they can get a little bit beyond that, but
you don't really ever hear about
We don't ever
that.
hear about them. You know, and we talked about this on a previous show, like when the Biden's Department of Justice and Merrick Garland came out and said that white supremacy is the most dangerous threat that we're facing in the United States. And I'm like, when the hell have we experienced white supremacy?
What political power does white supremacists have?
Have none.
They have none.
They have no power. And are they committing violence? Not violence that I'm seeing. Right? The most violence that you're going to see is posting something negative online that you consider these words to be violence,
right,
of that stuff, versus the left that is burning down Minneapolis. They burned.
Yeah.
They absolutely burned Minneapolis in 2020.
Murder, loot.
Right, and you're like, January 6th. I'm going to just say, if you take January 6th out, one day, where no one died other than a January 6th protester, Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah,
right.
More than there were other. Roseanne Boylan died as well. She was trampled to death. But yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear. Okay, all right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
But all of these police officers that committed suicide after and all of that.
How
stuff,
convenient.
How it was really convenient, and you're just like, wait a minute. So you committed suicide 7 days later because of the turmoil of it or something?
And then I
don't know.
I think one of the chief of police was Stephen Sund, who got to testify, but behind closed doors. And then Tucker Carlson interviewed him, and Fox wouldn't air the interview.
Yeah, there were so many people that were lying about. There were police officers even that were lying about the negative experience that they had. Right. They were like, "Oh, I was beaten over the head," and they were like, "Wait a minute, Tucker played the video."
Yeah, it was a guided tour.
This was you getting beaten over the head. Okay, so let me just say.
Sorry,
this.
I had to qualify that. I just want everybody to know that it was a false flag, like
right.
Uniparty version of the Reichstag fire.
So I'll say this. I'll say, hey, January 6th was bad. That's a big loss in the conservative column here, right? Now, we would say that they had reasons for all of that stuff, and you were just like, well, we had a grievance, and we took it to the people that we had the grievance with.
Yeah.
Your grievance is with George Floyd.
And they burned the country.
And so you break into a black business and you steal all of the clothes out of a black business like boutique. Wait a minute. How is that? Well, it's, we protest, and that's where our chaos and all of this stuff. Or that's the only way, because we're powerless, we have to show you how powerful we are. And I'm like, well, conservatives, when they're frustrated with somebody, they will take that frustration directly to the person that they're frustrated with. You are frustrated about racial tension. You feel like that black people, and it's bad, like the white liberals, Antifa, when they get arrested, it's almost purple-haired white liberals. Okay, so it's not a racial thing, but you're saying that you're frustrated with the system of oppression. So I'm going to go and give further oppression to other black people. How the hell does that make sense? Like, you're going to vandalize and burglarize other black businesses as a black person, or a white person who is trying to protect?
It goes back to what you said. A temple unto yourself.
You're a temple unto yourself, and it is like, hey, I want these tennis shoes, I want these Reeboks,
exactly right.
I want these Nikes, I want these Jordans.
It's not about principle. It's about self-enrichment, and that's why when this USAID,
it's opportunistic.
That's right. And this USAID money dries up, you have less protests because they're not really there for their
They're not
principles.
being funded.
They're not
right.
being funded.
Those stacks of bricks on pallets aren't being dropped off anymore, are they?
And
you're kind of wondering where that money. Oh, I thought it was coming from George Soros.
Yeah. By the way, Trump targeting George Soros now on his Truth Social, saying that they need to be prosecuted. I think George Soros should be labeled as a terrorist. His organization should be labeled as a domestic terrorist organization. He's basically a James Bond villain, a real life James Bond villain, with a long
evil man.
But we were talking yesterday about that left wing news site that was telling the left to quit using certain words,
terms,
right?
Yeah.
So they need to use new words because their woke vocabulary is scaring voters off.
Yeah.
Well, I think CNN is kind of hip to that because Megan Basham, she commented on a David Marcus tweet. David Marcus writing, quote, CNN is using the pronoun him to describe the shooter. Now, this is odd because in the past, the news media would have described, like when Audrey Hale shot up the school, I'm pretty sure the media called her a him. Number one, they did that because it made everyone think that it was a white male shooter, right? Because that's what they
found
want,
out.
right? But in this case, they're using the word him to describe the shooter. If the legal name change to from Robert to Robin is reported, if that's accurate, this would seem to violate their style guidance and corporate rules regarding transgender people. But see, they've gotten the memo. We've got to find a way to conceal who the Democrats, who the left really is. And that's why Megan Basham said, because if they said her as the style guide requires, they're admitting this was another insane trans shooter. So they are trying to cover this up. The good news is they can't, because of X, and the manifesto is everywhere. And the YouTube was scrubbed, but it wasn't scrubbed fast enough, and the truth got out there. By the way, I flashed this up on the screen earlier, but this is the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota.
She's the stupid garbage piece of trash who stood up there and said, when children tell us who they are, we must believe them.
We must believe them.
And you're like, no. I saw that video clipped. I may have sent it to you, but it was clipped with an old Andy Griffith.
Okay.
Yeah, and he goes, no, I'm afraid it don't work that way. If you let a youngin, as he called them, do their own thing, they're going to grab at the first shiny object that they can find.
Exactly right.
And it's too late before they figure out there's a hook in it.
Yeah. I mean, really and truly, the whole, I just kind of dawned on me, but like the whole idea of just believing, if they say they're the opposite sex, then you believe them, is really just it's a totally undermining the parental-child relationship, just in terms of normal discipline. Because I can't tell you how many ideas, not just like ideas like I want to do this or I want to be that, but just like, how many ideas do I have to talk my 8-year-old out of and explain to her why it's a bad idea?
It's not a good idea.
It really fundamentally comes down to do what thou willst, and it's like, no, you can't do everything that you want to do. You've got to be disciplined.
There's an interview, and it's this, and they were in Minnesota. It was a liberal couple, right? And the guy needs to go to his local testosterone clinic if this is the case. But here's the thing. They asked, like, oh, they were out there protesting. They said, we're parents of trans children. They're like, oh, when did your child become trans? And this child was like, I don't know, 9 at this point. And then it's like, oh, yeah, well, they told us when they were, she came out as trans when she was 1.5. You stand there with a straight
somebody
face.
Call the police. Like, I mean, come on, call the police on these people.
You stand there with a straight face and tell me that you're sane. Tell me that you think your 1.5-year-old got to choose that they're the opposite gender, and you tell me that I'm in a cult.
Doesn't it make sense? I mean,
you're in a trans ideology cult.
And this is why it's it can make people uncomfortable, but it's like, that woman's evil. Like, this is not this, and I'm comfortable describing it in those terms, right? Because I think that's what this is. You're talking about a 1-year-old child, and 50 years ago, everybody would have said, yes, evil. They're willing to actually use, this is wicked. This is the biblical. This is like when the Bible talks about inventors of evil.
Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't just more than a few. It wasn't just more than a few years ago, Paul, that you and I couldn't be having this conversation.
No, you're exactly right.
If we were sitting here ripping on trans, we would be like, YouTube's going to take it down. TikTok may still take this down if this get on one of these clips.
Who knows?
Right? Who knows? I don't give a damn. But all of these platforms were aligning with this trans ideology. You couldn't even talk about it. And if you did, you had to say, well, just being gentle about it. And I'm like, you know what? Screw you.
Well, this is where it comes down to the live and let live, man. Like, in this case, live and let live, you've got kids that are dead because of it. I mean, that's the way I see it.
100%.
I mean, and it's not the first. I mean, the Nashville shooter, that Presbyterian school in Nashville, those children are dead because us sitting here saying, we're not going to ban that when states have the authority to ban that kind of behavior.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
So. Well, let's throw this last little thing out here. You say to me, there have been tons of school shooters, mass shooters who are not trans. Okay. I'm going to give you the exact same argument that we give for illegal immigrants who rape and murder people.
Yeah.
Right? There are rapes and murders that happen every single solitary day. But if those people weren't let into the country, then the people that they raped and murdered would not be victims.
Yep.
Okay? We could have at least stopped those. So if you want to try to tell me that the trans people are not the only ones committing these acts of violence, granted, they're not. But I can tell you this. Instead of embracing that mental illness, if they would have been receiving help instead of an embracing of that ideology, the people that were murdered today, the people that were murdered in Nashville, in Texas, all of those places where we saw trans or non-binary people commit these acts of violence, they would be alive today.
Absolutely. There's no arguing with that. That's a good analogy for sure. And that brings me to Trey Gowdy. Who decided to take this opportunity.
I love Trey Gowdy. I hate
I
this,
do not
though.
love Trey Gowdy. We would disagree on that.
Just because I've read his books and I agree with him on stuff.
I know. He knows how to sound conservative. He certainly knew how to fundraise.
He tried to. I'll tell you this. He also said that the legal system is the purest system that we have. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of innocent
here's
people
the
who
deal.
went to prison.
I still want to know why he abruptly resigned when he did, or decided not to run for office.
Now, if you read his books, he talks about it.
Okay.
And he says that he just said, all right, so I got into, he came in 2010.
Yeah.
And it was Barack Obama, and then they took the power of the House in 2012, and they said, well, what we really need is we need the Senate. So they get the Senate, so they get the Senate in 2014, whatever the years were. And they're like, no, we've got to have the presidency. Right, so they get the presidency with Trump in his first term. They got the House and they got the Senate in Trump's first term, and he's like, "I'm making it to the end of it." And it's like nothing changed.
Yeah, well,
you couldn't get anything accomplished.
Well, he's certainly right about that, Paul Ryan.
So it's believable, but
here's what he had to say about this. This is not about the trans mental illness or demonic oppression. I wouldn't expect him to say demonic oppression, but certainly the trans mental illness. No, it's not about that. It's about white men with guns.
Our system is reactive. Something bad happens, we react to it. And what people are crying for now is, how can we prevent this? How can we stop it? And the only way to stop it is to identify the shooter ahead of time or keep the weapons out of their hands. And so we're going to have a conversation of freedom versus protecting children. I mean, how many school shootings does it take before we're going to have a conversation about keeping firearms out? It's always a young white male. Almost always. I mean, did anyone this morning think, I wonder if that was a female?
Yes, because of Nashville.
Did any of y'all think that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's been one school shooting involving a female.
You hear somebody say there was in Tennessee. So Trey Gowdy says we got to have a conversation. We got to have a conversation about.
He brought up two good points.
Freedom versus
freedom. He's like, we either have to find better ways to protect children, or we've got to take those weapons out of these individuals' hands.
Right.
And I say, considering that there are more firearms than there are people in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. Taking firearms out is not. But how much money do we waste as a United States government? Why can we not have the most vulnerable of our community, which is our children? Why are there not government-funded protections at every school in America?
Well,
Don't tell me we can't afford that for all the crap. We're sending money. How many billions of dollars have we sent to Ukraine or Israel?
Yeah.
All of these people all of these countries who have received billions of dollars, but yet our students going to school are not protected.
Well,
the only way that the school protects them is if they have a school resource officer and all of that.
No, I agree. And this was a Catholic private school, and so I mean, presumably they could. I guess they're definitely. It's a soft target. They're definitely.
You'd have to have even if you protected all of public schools, you'd have to have some provision.
But here's what I will say. I'm just going to kind of put a little soft prediction out there. I don't know. But, well, one of the things Trey Gowdy says is we have to stop them, or we have to know who they are before they do it. I just wonder.
Well, we did know who they were.
I wonder, this specific individual. Mm-hmm. I just wonder if a week, maybe 24 hours from now, we might find out if this guy was on any law enforcement's radar, because that tends to be a reoccurring theme here. Oh yeah, we knew about this, and certainly in the Bible, like, well, the FBI knew about it. I just want to know, like, look, the idea of the
nationalist, right, who has a mental illness, decided to kill children. We would have something more that we could do, that we could glean from this,
right?
And that is, there are mentally ill people who are walking the streets every single day. There are people who are saying that they're trans, but that is just a shield for some other mental illness that they're facing. And so what we're dealing with is get rid of guns. That's not the solution. Get rid of guns. That's not the solution, because there are millions and millions of law-abiding citizens. And by the way, those law-abiding citizens with guns is what's going to keep our government from ever overrunning us.
That's exactly right. That's about all the time that we have, Rob. Not exactly the type of show I wanted to do this morning. Matter of fact, when we didn't even get to talk about what we originally planned to talk about, which was this I-40 bridge. I apologize that the headline and the thumbnail says something different, but this is consumed the entire time because it's a vital conversation that needs to be had. Doctors, therapists, everybody promoting this nonsense has to stop. The American Medical Association has to stop. RFK Jr.'s got to step up and put an end to this. The Health and Human Services Secretary, this is not healthy. How dare you call this health care?
Yeah.
When you do this to these kids.
I really hope that Trump will declare a national emergency on the trans ideology and the mental health crisis that exists within that trans ideology.
Yeah, they need to start raiding these transgender treatment facilities and bringing these doctors out in handcuffs.
Burn those damn places to the ground.
They're making money hand over fist. They're pushing this because they're willing to hurt these kids because the procedures are ridiculously expensive.
There are no doctors, in my opinion, or very few doctors who actually believe that a man walking in there saying he's a woman is actually a woman.
Yep.
It is about, if I do this surgery, I make money.
Yep, I think you're exactly right. Folks, I want to remind everybody that if you want to become a subscriber, I want you to go to paultalkshow.substack.com. That's paultalkshow.substack.com. And if you become a paid subscriber, you'll get a copy of Left Wing Will and the Red Pill. That is all the time that we have for this edition. We're going to be back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock Central. We're going to be talking with a fascinating guy from Olympus Kennels who has trained in the past police dogs and now raises personal protection dogs. We're going to have a great conversation with him tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. We will see you then. Be safe.